Words sometimes hurt more than any actions. When you trust someone and they turn your own feelings against you, it's a betrayal that leaves scars for a long time. Every time you think it can't get worse, life throws a new level of pain your way. He gave everything he could, love, support, money, only to receive contempt and ridicule in return. But at some point, patience runs out. When lies and betrayal become the norm, there's only one path left: to cut away everything unnecessary and start over. But can he truly break free from the past if it keeps knocking on his door over and over again? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. That morning, the kitchen was flooded with light, golden beams pouring in through the windows and illuminating the particles suspended in the air. It was so intensely bright, almost jubilant in a way that jarred against the knot of unease tightening in my chest. Even the coffee in my mug tasted harsher than usual, though I knew the bitterness had nothing to do with the beans or the brew. Across from me, Bianca flipped through the local newspaper, her spoon circling her tea absently, like her thoughts had wandered miles from the table. To my right, Kylie, my stepdaughter, was immersed in her phone, fingers flying across the screen with mechanical precision, as if the device had grafted itself to her palm. Bianca and I had been together for 5 years, a quiet, mostly uneventful 5 years, a marriage coasting on habit more than connection. That morning held no overt warning signs, nothing dramatic. Still, the evidence had been surfacing for a while now, small, easily dismissed cracks that had begun to deepen until ignoring them was no longer an option. There was a time when we filled mornings with idle laughter and lazy talks, plans for road trips, debates over shows we both half-watched. But lately, that warmth had vanished. Our exchanges were brief and transactional, schedules, bills, reminders. The silence between us had grown thick, almost tangible. And then, it happened. As I brought the cup to my lips, I felt something shift. Minor, but undeniable. Bianca folded the newspaper with deliberate care, aligning its corners like it mattered, her fingers lingering on the pages. Her lips pressed together tightly, signaling she was gearing up to say something she'd rehearsed. My stomach turned. I had felt it for weeks, a wrongness I couldn't pin down. I kept blaming it on fatigue or the stress of work. I kept asking myself what I might have done. I thought I could handle any explanation, except the one my instincts had already suspected. The anxiety had been mounting, whispering warnings I tried not to hear. It was her phone that tipped the balance. She never let it leave her side. Even in bed, it stayed within arm's reach. The screen was locked, notifications silenced, and she always flipped it face down when I entered the room, as though I were intruding into someone else's story. Those months took a toll. I tried to shut out the doubts, but they crept in regardless. Eventually, I couldn't stand the uncertainty anymore. On a Tuesday evening, desperate for the truth, I hired a private investigator. It cost me $2,000, money I'd meant to put into Kylie's college fund, but I had to know. And once I did, there was no denying it. Bianca had rekindled something with her ex-husband, Mason, the same man whose past was riddled with violence and court orders. The man she'd once run from was now the one she was secretly seeing again. And more than that, she was sleeping with him. I waited, quietly, for her to admit it. And that morning, I could feel she was on the verge. One final pass of her hand over the newspaper, a shaky breath, and then she looked straight at me. "Benjamin," she said, so softly it was nearly lost in the stillness. "We need to talk." Her voice trembled, despite her efforts to keep it steady. My heart thumped, but I didn't react outwardly. I kept to the version of myself I liked to present. Calm, composed. I placed my mug down on the table with a quiet clink and gave her my full attention. Go ahead, I said, voice level. I'm listening. Kylie glanced up at that, her expression unreadable for a moment, half smile, half sneer, before she returned to her screen. I ignored it. My focus was on Bianca alone. She drew a deep breath. I'm going to be away for a bit, she said at last. Her words dropped into the room without fanfare, but they hit with the weight of finality. I didn't flinch. I gave her nothing. No reaction to feed on. She said it would be for a month. That wasn't just time away to clear her head. That was something else entirely. Intentional. Serious. So I waited for the rest. She hesitated. I'll be with Mason. It's his birthday this month. There was a quiver in her voice, but her eyes didn't waver. I want to do something meaningful for him. Then came the part that nearly made me laugh. And I figured if I tell you the truth, then technically, it's not cheating. Her logic was so warped it stunned me. She truly believed that being upfront gave her a moral out? That honesty canceled betrayal? I didn't show a flicker of what I felt. She wanted something, maybe permission, maybe a fight she could twist into justification. I offered neither. All right, I replied flatly. That caught her off guard. I saw it in the flicker behind her eyes. She'd braced for shouting, for tears. Instead, I kept my voice even. One question, plain and pointed. So, what exactly does this trip involve? I asked. Are you playing house now? Making dinner, doing his laundry, sleeping in his bed? Or is he just out of people willing to pretend they still care? There was venom behind my words now, subtle but sharp. Her face flushed. Jesus, Benjamin, she snapped. I'm not some maid or escort. Don't reduce me like that. I'm going because I care about him, the way a wife might care about her husband. She met my gaze head on, her jaw set, defiant, and that's when my throat closed up. But you have a husband, I said quietly. You made vows to me. Or did those stop meaning anything? She lifted her shoulders in a shrug, a gesture meant to seem dismissive, but the tension in her frame betrayed her. It's not cheating if I'm being upfront about it, she insisted. I'm telling you the truth. There's no deceit here. You can't call it betrayal when I'm laying it all out in the open. I let out a slow breath, carefully masking any sign of emotion. I could feel Kylie's stare pressing against the side of my head, so I turned slightly to meet it. She was grinning, clearly enjoying the tension in the room, maybe even feeding off of it. Typical. She's never tried to hide her contempt for me. Her allegiance has always been with her father, Mason, but what she said next cut deeper than I expected. Mom has her own needs, you know, Kylie said, her tone thick with teenage scorn. She doesn't have to sit around hoping you'll magically become interesting. She rolled her eyes, like the entire thing bored her. She's entitled to live how she wants. You don't own her. Anger surged through me, but I buried it. Kylie, I said, my voice steady. This is between me and Bianca, our relationship. She shrugged like it meant nothing. Doesn't matter. I'm involved whether you like it or not. If I want to see my dad or she wants to hang out with her ex, that's not your call. And it definitely doesn't count as cheating if she tells you beforehand, she added, her eyes locking with mine in open defiance. I examined her expression and saw it. Not just arrogance, but calculation. And that's when I knew. She wasn't just backing up her mother. She was driving the whole thing. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it had all been her idea. The investigators' photos even showed her at some of those meetings. This was more layered than I'd thought. Still, I kept my face unreadable. All right, I said, raising both hands in mock defeat. Seems like I'm outvoted. If this little scheme of yours is already underway, I won't stop you. But Bianca, if you're planning to shack up with your ex for a month, there are a few conditions. Bianca folded her arms, irritation flaring. Conditions? What, now you're going to give me a speech about commitment? Please, Benjamin, you're not my father. No speeches, I said flatly. Just terms. For those 30 days, we're legally separated. You'll sign the papers. No spousal support, no money. For you or for Kylie. And I'll be free to do what I want. No strings, no responsibilities. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You're actually serious? I gave a slow nod. Dead serious. You want freedom? Take it. But don't expect me to bankroll your fling or wait around like some gullible fool when you decide to return. Everything goes in writing. If you're gone for a month, then I'm released too. I turned to Kylie. And that includes you. No tuition, no car payments, no phone bill, nothing. Not while we're separated. Kylie scoffed, but I noticed the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I'll figure it out, she muttered, though the usual bite in her voice was missing. My dad can help. Bianca stepped forward. Fine, draft the agreement. I'll sign. She didn't even blink. No hesitation, no second guessing, as if tossing away our marriage was as casual as throwing out an old receipt. My chest tightened, but I kept my smile calm and composed. All right, I said. I'll call the lawyer. That moment marked the start of something bitter, warped, and emotionally deadening. Even now, it's hard to believe how smoothly it all unfolded, but I wasn't caught off guard. The moment the private investigator handed me the evidence, I started preparing. I had everything: pictures, texts, video footage. My response would be precise, lawful, and utterly devastating. If Bianca wanted to risk everything for a man who nearly ruined her once before, I would make sure she understood what that gamble cost. By the next day, the documents were ready. Bianca, full of smug confidence, signed without even scanning the fine print. I caught Kylie peeking over her shoulder, her lips curled into a quiet, satisfied smile as her mother scribbled her name. Kylie didn't need to sign. At 18, she was technically an adult, but still in high school, still under certain legal obligations. The separation agreement left no room for misinterpretation. Neither of them would see a cent during that month apart. Mr. Garcia, my attorney, said it was an unusual arrangement, but entirely feasible. Bianca walked around like she'd just scored some grand victory, her attitude a mixture of stubborn pride and self-deception. Kylie kept feeding her lines. Just sign it, Mom. He can't really stop you. This is just a scare tactic. He'll come crawling back. I heard her whisper it across the room. My jaw clenched. Kylie wasn't just enabling this mess, she was orchestrating it. The messages they traded, the mocking behind closed doors, the nights Kylie vanished without a word, it all led to the same undeniable truth. She had been steering Bianca right back into Mason's orbit, and Bianca, still scarred by old wounds, yet strangely drawn to the familiarity of destruction, didn't resist. Benjamin, let's just get this over with, she snapped, when I reminded her we'd be finalizing everything at the courthouse the next day. I've got the next month to myself anyway. Do whatever you want. I nodded like it didn't matter. Fine by me. Inside, though, I was all fire and disbelief. Part of me wanted to scream, why? But I already knew any fight now would be pointless. A betrayal once set in motion doesn't turn back. Bianca packed like someone heading off to paradise. She hummed under her breath while folding shirts and filling her suitcase, calm and content. Kylie buzzed around her like a cheerful stylist, digging through drawers and tossing out outfit suggestions. You should totally bring that black dress Dad gave you, she said brightly. Mason won't be able to take his eyes off you. I stood silently in the doorway, arms folded, watching the surreal little production unfold. It looked like the start of a vacation, and in its own twisted way, I guess that's what it was. A retreat to her ex-husband's home, where fantasies too dark to survive daylight would be allowed to flourish. The final gut punch came when I overheard Kylie whisper, "Relax, Mom. He's just throwing a tantrum. He's not going to actually do anything. Once we're back, it'll all blow over. And if he gets dramatic, we'll just say he pressured you into signing." That was the moment it all snapped into focus. Kylie wasn't just complicit. She was the mastermind. She'd rekindled Bianca's nostalgia like it was her personal project. It was Kylie who rationalized it, twisted the facts, and treated deception like strategy as long as the timeline worked in their favor. Her betrayal cut deeper than words could reach, but it also crystallized something in me. I wasn't going to play the fool anymore. My patience had been exploited. My roles, husband, stepfather, tossed aside like old furniture. It was time to cut every tie. Bianca must have noticed me standing there. "Don't you have somewhere to be?" she asked, cool and detached. "We're nearly packed. Kylie and I are heading to Mason's." "I won't be in your way," I said evenly. "I'll be here to see you off. No drama." She gave a short laugh, more a scoff than anything. "Yeah, sure." That night they rolled their bags through the living room like tourists leaving a hotel. Bianca didn't even glance back. Kylie followed with a satisfied grin, like someone celebrating a win. She didn't say a word, like I'd already been erased from her reality. Once they stepped onto the porch, I followed, leaning casually against the railing, hand raised in a slow, deliberate wave. "Take care," I said. "Mason is still across town, right? Enjoy your little getaway." Kylie spun, yelling back, "You're gonna regret this more than anything." And just like that, they were gone. The car slipped down the street and disappeared. The silence inside was instant and suffocating. My chest felt hollow, but my mind was sharper than it had been in months. I locked the door, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a heavy glass of whiskey. The burn of the first sip was exactly what I needed. Now it was my turn. In the days that followed, I set in motion the plan I'd been quietly building ever since I discovered what Bianca had been up to. First came Kylie's car. The title was in my name. I'd bought it, after all. She'd always complained about it anyway. "This color's not really me," she'd whine. Well, now she wouldn't have to worry about the color anymore, because she wouldn't have the car. Then I dealt with Bianca's vehicle, the one she flaunted online like it was some prize she'd earned. But she hadn't. I'd footed every bill. With the separation finalized, she had no claim to it, so I sold that one too. The next move was the biggest. I emptied our joint accounts. We had built up a decent financial cushion, money for emergencies, vacations, bills, even a hefty college fund for Kylie. I had contributed the majority. Bianca pitched in now and then, but I was the financial backbone. A few clicks, and it was gone. Moved into an offshore account I'd opened quietly months ago. If Kylie still wanted college, she could talk to her mother or Mason. I hesitated briefly. Education had always been the one thing I'd promised her. But then her smug little smirk flashed in my mind. I remembered how easily she'd used me, how gleefully she'd maneuvered her mother back into an abuser's arms. No, she made her decisions. Let her live with them. And finally, I addressed the house. My house, solely in my name. I didn't plan to sell it long term, but I made sure that by the time Bianca's month-long retreat ended, the locks would be changed. She would have no standing here, not as a partner, not as a guest. Nothing. To cover all bases, I went ahead and disconnected every phone line still under my name. Maybe it was a petty move, but given everything that had unfolded, it felt more than justified. The days that followed were unusually calm. For once, I could enjoy my coffee in the morning without that familiar tightness in my chest. The anxiety was gone. I caught up on an old movie, got absorbed in a good book, and even slept through the night. No buzzing phone lighting up the darkness with shady late-night texts from Bianca. But that sense of calm didn't last long. By the fifth day, the calls began again. Bianca started hitting up my cell, 2, maybe 3 times in less than an hour. I ignored them. Then Kylie joined in, flooding my voicemail with clipped, venomous messages that escalated quickly. "Answer your phone, you piece of shit," one of her messages spat. "We know you took the money. Mom's card got declined. Call me now." I poured myself a glass of whiskey and let the voicemail stack up. I wasn't about to play their game anymore. Eventually, Bianca rang the house phone. One I'd forgotten still worked. I sat there watching the old cordless phone vibrate across the coffee table, its shrill ring shredding the quiet around me. I finally picked up, just to end it. "Where the hell have you been?" she snapped the second I answered. "We've both been calling." I swirled the whiskey slowly, keeping my voice steady. "I've been focusing on myself, keeping busy." There was a beat of silence, then her voice flared with anger. "Don't play dumb, Benjamin. Why did you wipe out the accounts? I got the alerts, everything's gone, every damn dollar." I laughed dryly, heart thudding beneath my calm tone. "I don't know what you're talking about. We agreed to 30 days apart. That means my money is mine. So I figured it was time to finally take that trip to Jamaica I always put off." Her voice cracked. "You can't just do that. Kylie's college fund was in there. She needs that money. We need..." And there it was. The realization settling in. They were broke, or close to it. But that wasn't the end of it. I had already sold both Bianca's and Kylie's cars. I assumed they'd figured it out by now. "What happened to our cars?" she asked, voice starting to shake. "I sold them," I said plainly. "To be clear, I sold my cars. Neither of you ever paid a dime toward them. You're living with Mason now. He can buy you a ride. Let him cover your expenses." "You bastard, Benjamin," I cut her off. "Say what you need to say if it helps you sleep at night. It won't change anything. We're separated. You do you, and I'll do me." Then I hung up. The next few days followed the same pattern. More calls, more drama. Sometimes I picked up, sometimes I didn't. Each conversation was just more venom, accusations, threats of police involvement or legal retaliation. But none of it mattered. Bianca had signed off on the separation. Financially, she'd given me full authority. And with the proof of her affair and the timeline to back it, the case for divorce was already airtight. It would all land squarely on her. Then, about a week into the chaos, Kylie left a voicemail. Her voice was unhinged, rage boiling over. "You unbelievable asshole," she shouted. "You don't get to cut me off. You think you can just stop paying for college? I'll sue you for something. Abuse, I don't care. My dad says we can make it look like your fault. And you sold my car? I'm supposed to take the damn bus now? You'll regret this, Benjamin." That message told me everything I needed to know. Kylie never cared about making amends. She wanted the perks. She stood with her mother, but still expected me to foot the bill. She thought she could play both sides and still live comfortably on my dime. The entitlement was staggering. I saved the message immediately. It might come in handy if she ever followed through on those threats. Whatever sliver of paternal duty I still felt for Kylie evaporated after that. She was never legally my daughter. I never adopted her. And to be honest, she'd always treated me with a quiet resentment. This just confirmed it. She'd gone too far. During that same separation period, I met with my lawyer to speed up the eviction process. I had a feeling Bianca might try to sneak back in after the 30 days, maybe pull some legal maneuver about squatters' rights or marital residency. But we made sure the paperwork was airtight. She wouldn't have a case. The notices were drawn up and posted on the front door. They weren't living there anymore, but I wasn't leaving anything to chance. I wanted everything documented, clean, legal, untouchable. The official eviction date? Right in the middle of Bianca's birthday month with Mason. By that point, the house barely contained a trace of my presence. Nearly everything I owned had already been packed away into storage or sold off, part of my effort to make a clean break. A moving crew was on site to clear out the last remnants, furniture that was solely mine. As they loaded the truck, a familiar coughing engine stuttered to a halt in front of the house. It was unmistakably Mason's clunky old car. Bianca and Kylie climbed out, clearly tipped off about the eviction. The second Kylie stepped onto the driveway, her face twisted into pure rage. "You mother ducker!" she shrieked, storming toward me. "What the hell are you doing with my things? That's my table. Those chairs are mine." I kept calm, focusing on the movers. "Hey, fellas, Small request, don't engage. Everything you're taking is legally mine, paid for out of my pocket or listed under my name. If they believe they own anything, they can speak to my lawyer. The tallest mover, a brawny, bald guy who looked like he could bench press a love seat, nodded in understanding. Kylie tried to push past him, clearly trying to get in my face, but he simply raised an arm and blocked her path. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to stand back. We're in the middle of a job. Bianca was right behind her, shouting as she pointed at him. Don't you dare touch my daughter, she barked. Benjamin, stop this right now. We still have rights to this house. I met her gaze without flinching. Not anymore. You signed the separation agreement, remember? The deed's in my name now. I'm fully within my rights to take what belongs to me. If you think something here is yours, show me proof. Bring receipts. Kylie's expression twisted further, her fury starting to spill into something more fragile. You can't do this to me. You promised to pay for college. You told me I had a future. You liar! Her voice cracked, emotion catching up with her anger. She lunged toward me, reaching for my arm, but the mover stepped in like a wall of steel, putting himself between us. That's enough, he said firmly, locking eyes with her. Another worker gently held her back by the shoulders. Get off me, Kylie screamed. I swear I'll duck and kill him. It sounded more like anguish than an actual threat, but the tension hit a boiling point fast. Bianca joined in, her voice shrill and sharp. You bastard! I could take you to court over this! I stayed ice cold. Kylie is legally an adult now. She's 18. She's not a minor, and she was never legally my child. So no, Bianca, I don't owe you a single cent in support. Kylie looked like she'd been slapped. After everything? You think you can just throw us away like garbage? I pointed toward the envelope taped to the front door. That's your official eviction notice. If you've got a problem, take it up with the court. But let's not pretend this wasn't your choice. You wanted the separation. I turned to Bianca, staring her down. You decided to go back to your ex. Kylie wanted her grandfather's house so badly. Great. Let her stay there. I owe neither of you a thing. Bianca's face flushed deep red. This is exactly why I went back to Mason, she spat. At least he has a heart. You're a cold, soulless machine hiding behind logic to excuse your cruelty. Right, I said, voice flat. I'm the villain, even though I never laid a hand on you, never threatened you. I gave you a safe home, a car, savings for her education, but yeah, let's call that cruelty. She didn't respond, just glared, simmering. Kylie made one final push to get past the mover, but he held his ground. Her eyes filled with tears as she shouted, You'll regret this, Benjamin. You'll pay for humiliating us. I remained silent, giving the mover a small nod. He turned to them. If you don't leave, we're going to have to involve the police. Defeated and fuming, they stomped back to the sedan, hurling insults as they slammed the doors. The engine coughed and groaned as it pulled away, leaving me alone on the driveway, heart still pounding from the confrontation. As brutal as it had been, it was necessary. Their illusions needed to break. Eventually, they'd have to learn that choices come with consequences, and those consequences were already taking shape. The very next day, I got a call from a fresh-faced attorney Bianca had apparently just hired. He tried to rattle me, tossing out allegations of emotional neglect and abandonment. He even threatened to pursue retroactive child support for Kylie. I calmly explained that Kylie was a legal adult, 18, and had never been formally adopted. If they wanted to test the legal definition of dependent, they were welcome to try. They'd lose. I also reminded him that the separation agreement, signed by Bianca herself, gave me full control over the property for the entire month. My own attorney jumped in quickly and with surgical precision dismantled every one of their claims. He presented everything, a detailed dossier from a private investigator outlining Bianca's infidelity, time-stamped and dated well before the separation. The judge, barely hiding his bemusement at the mess of it all, granted the divorce on grounds of adultery. I owed them nothing. Even the court, it seemed, saw through the farce and recognized the bitter absurdity of it all. "Rough luck, darling," he sneered at Bianca, the disdain barely veiled beneath his self-satisfied smirk. Her complexion drained as the illusion she clung to crumbled, revealing the raw edges beneath her polished exterior. In the back row of the courtroom, Kylie sat stiffly, arms tightly folded, eyes narrowed with rage as she drilled holes through me with her glare. This wasn't the triumphant reconciliation with Mason they had envisioned. It was an unmitigated disaster. The judge's decision handed Bianca the scraps of our shared bank account, what little I had intentionally left behind. Just enough to scrape by for a couple of months in a dingy apartment, or maybe get Mason's junker halfway functional again. Meanwhile, the real assets, my assets, were locked safely away in a private account, untouchable and secure. A month ticked by before I caught wind from a mutual contact that Bianca and Kylie had moved in with Mason. But their imagined fairy tale reunion was already unraveling. Mason hadn't changed in the slightest. His drinking still lit the fuse of his rage, and word was he'd begun lashing out at Bianca, sometimes violently, when she so much as frowned. As for Kylie, once her father's biggest admirer, she was now taking buses and trains, enduring the judgmental glances and whispered gossip of her classmates, who noticed the absence of her car. Rumor had it she was telling people her stepdad took it, which didn't earn her much compassion. I didn't feel satisfaction in their suffering. Abuse is never a joke. But I wasn't moved to step in either. They made their choice. They discarded me like trash, sucked my patience dry, spit on my goodwill, and flaunted their betrayal as if I wouldn't notice. Now, they were wading through the mess they created. Any question of moral obligation had long been overshadowed by one clear reality. This wasn't my burden to carry. My future had already taken shape. Years ago, I'd passed on a partnership offer in Bangkok. Now, with my financial freedom restored, I took it. I left for Thailand, boarding the plane with a head full of grief and a heart ready to breathe. 5 years of marriage ended in wreckage, but I stepped away, unshackled. A few months later, I was building a new life in Bangkok. The heat was relentless, the city vibrant with noise and movement, but there was something oddly peaceful in the chaos. I moved into a modern condo with a panoramic view of the Chao Phraya River and threw myself into my work with a focus I hadn't felt in years. My personal life stayed quiet. There were a few brief encounters, but nothing that stuck. Emotionally, I was still unpacking the wreckage. Then one sultry Sunday, as I wandered through a crowded street market bursting with sizzling food and shouting vendors, my phone buzzed. A strange American number lit up the screen. I picked up, curiosity getting the better of me. "Benjamin here," I said. There was a pause. Then, a timid, broken voice I recognized at once. "Hi," Kylie said, her usual fire reduced to flickering embers. My chest tightened with a storm of emotions. "What do you need?" I asked, keeping my voice cold, distant. I really need to talk. Please don't hang up." I stepped aside, stopping near a stall selling fresh coconuts, trying to hear her better over the din. "You've got 1 minute," I said. "Use it wisely." She let out a shaky breath. I'm pregnant," she said, barely holding it together. "And Mason." He snapped. "So did Mom. They threw me out, literally. I'm staying with a friend, but it's temporary. I've got no money, no place to go, no food, nothing for the baby. I don't even have anything for prenatal care." Her voice cracked. "I'm scared, Benjamin." Pregnant. Kylie, my former stepdaughter, only 18. My mind spun. Who was the father? A boyfriend? A one-night stand? Considering her rebellious streak, I wasn't surprised. But the shock faded quickly, replaced by something colder and sharper. She must have sensed the silence. "Please," she whispered. "I'm begging you." Don't turn your back on me. I'll do anything. I swear I'll never treat you the way I did. Just, please help me. Anything. For the baby. For a place to stay. Just a little. Bangkok's oppressive heat clung to my skin as the world around me fell away. The shouts of vendors and chatter of tourists faded into white noise. I stood there, motionless, a flood of memories rushing in. Her cruel laughter, the way she delighted in every cut she made, the venom she spewed in defense of her father, the hateful messages, the time she tried to claw my face during the eviction. And now, the same girl who once spat at my kindness was begging for mercy. Part of me felt a flicker of pity, but a louder voice reminded me of every wound she'd left behind. "No," I said, my tone calm but absolute. She inhaled sharply. "What? Are you serious? You're just going to abandon me?" I drew a slow, measured breath. "You once said your mother could drink from any well she pleased," I reminded her. "And you said you'd do the same. So go find one, Kylie. I'm not your father. I owe you nothing. You made your choice, and now you're living with it." She broke down, her sobs barely muffled through the line. "I was a kid," she whimpered. "I didn't know. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Benjamin, come on. You've got the cash." I didn't let her finish. "Yes, I do. That's not the issue. The issue is, I have zero interest in giving you a single dollar." She had a hand in the wreckage of my life. She'd thrown every insult imaginable at me. She even threatened to sue me, throwing around accusations of abuse. And after all that, she had the audacity to come to me for help? A jagged, stifled cry escaped her throat. "I'm pregnant. I'm scared. I don't know what to do." I broke in again. "Kylie, I'm hanging up. I truly hope things turn out okay for you. You made your decisions. Now you face the consequences. Benjamin, please don't hang up. I'm begging." But I had already tapped the screen, severing the connection with a deliberate, unflinching touch. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, my hands twitching slightly with the surge of adrenaline. Fury, guilt, sorrow, sympathy. Every emotion crashed into me, one after the other. But in the end, resentment drowned them all. I couldn't forget what she'd done, couldn't rewrite history. That part of my life? It was closed, done. I looked down at the phone still in my grip, teeth tight as I let out a slow breath, then lifted my gaze. Squaring my shoulders, I stepped forward, toward the bustle ahead, toward whatever came next. The last thing I caught before the line went dead was that single, fragile word, please. It lingered in the stillness, like a ghost, like smoke. Maybe one last attempt to pull at my emotions, or maybe something real and raw. Either way, it changed nothing. The truth remained. She was carrying a child, and I walked away without turning back. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.